Welcome back to another edition of Just Talking with Joe Burdick. I'm really excited to introduce my next guest. If you don't know who this guy is, you're gonna love the story. I've got to put on my reading glasses so I don't mess this up when I introduce my next guest. Sergeant First Class Leroy Petry. He was an Army Ranger enlisted in 1999, deployed 8 times to Iraq and Afghanistan. His awards are the Ranger Tab, the Combat Infantryman's Badge, Expert Infantryman's Badge, Senior Parachutist Badge, the Parachutist Badge, Canadian Jump Wings, 2 Bronze Star medals, a Purple Heart, 3 Army Commendation medals, 2 Army Achievement medals, uh, Valorous Unit Award, 3 Army Good Conduct medals, National Defense Service Medal, Afghanistan Campaign Medal with Combat Star, Iraq Campaign Medal with Combat Star, Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, Global War on Terrorism Service Medal, Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development Ribbon with numeral 3, Overseas Ribbon, and Army Service Ribbon, and the Medal of Honor. I am so honored to be talking to Leroy Petry. Leroy, thanks for doing this with me.
Hey, thank you. Quite a sounds like a lot when somebody reads it out, but it just shows that soldiers and service members that stay in long enough, they keep you busy, and those awards come if you're doing the right thing.
I don't know how your shirt would even stay on with all that hardware on there.
That's exactly what it is. Damn it, I gotta go buy another piece of ribbon to put on my uniform.
Well, it's an honor. For those that don't know Leroy got the Medal of Honor, like I said. I met Leroy a couple of weeks ago. I reached out when I decided I wanted to do a podcast, and I was thinking of all the veterans I'd want to talk to. Leroy was on the top of the list. I had an opportunity. We were this close to, a couple of years ago at the Patriot Project. I know you were slated to come out there a couple of years ago, and you couldn't make it. So I'm glad that I got you now. I've got about a million questions. First of all, how's the weather on the left coast?
Left coast is beautiful. It's about 76 degrees today. Staying dry for a little bit.
So you're in Seattle?
About an hour south, yeah, down by
Okay.
KBLM.
Is that where you live now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Leroy was in town a couple of weeks ago in Canton. My buddy Brian Bowman invited me to meet Leroy and 2 more Medal of Honor recipients. So when Leroy came in, I jumped up and I was like, Leroy, I got to have you on my podcast. And of course, here he is. He agreed to do it. So I have a million questions. Now I'm a Navy guy, so some of my stuff's not. You're gonna think, what's this squid talking about? But I mean, I'm really curious about the Army and the Rangers. I've been reading up on the Rangers. That's a pretty badass group. But what made you want to go in the Army after all?
Since I was a young kid, my grandparents both served in the military. I had uncles that served. Nobody ever talked about their service, though. It was long after I came along, and so didn't see them in uniform, but we saw pictures on the wall of them in their service uniforms. Never really asked about it. They never talked about it, and so it was up on the walls in the entryway, the living room. Uh, Up with family pictures. And so I knew it was something of importance that if they invited anyone into their home, that was something they wanted them to see on the walls amongst family, things that were important to them. And so it was always a sense of pride. And as I got older, my mom's cousin was deployed, Desert Storm or Shield, I think, and started really getting me to ask the questions because now it was hitting home. Somebody was deploying, and started asking, well, why is he going all the way halfway across the world to save somebody we don't even know? Started to realize that he wasn't doing it only for them; he was doing it mostly for us back here at home, and just really stuck in my mind. And I knew that when I got old enough, I wanted to join and I wanted to serve.
Mm.
that I felt that I was given so much opportunity being born in this country that I just wanted to give 4 years back and signed up. And shortly thereafter, 9/11 hit, and found out that we were deploying to Afghanistan and Iraq and back and forth. And in between, we were home training. It seemed like we weren't even home. And so I kept redeploying. In fact, on my second reenlistment, my wife didn't want me to. She said, "No, you've done enough. It's time to stay home." And I came home on my birthday and knocked on the door, and door opens up and big smile, "Happy birthday!" I said, "Guess what, honey? I just reenlisted for 6 years today."
Uh-oh.
And her smile kind of broke down a little bit, but she says, I trust you. You always make good decisions." And so just kept redeploying, and I saw the difference that we were making on the ground. The stuff that wasn't shown back home on television, the schools being built, the roads being built, the infrastructures being built. When I first deployed to Afghanistan, I thought that world was like a third world country. I'd been to Mexico a few times growing up as a kid, Juarez and whatnot. And it made me look at Afghanistan and go, wow, I know Mexico's a third world country. What is this?
Right.
And it was really primitive. And just learning the culture and a lot of the changes throughout the years to be able to see that develop. I think the last time I was over there was 2017 or 18. We were taking some wounded veterans back down to visit, and it was neat throughout the years to see how it kept developing and the changing faces and the familiar ones that had already been on multiple deployments. In fact, I ran into some of my buddies over there. One in particular, I hadn't seen him in years, and I said, "Hey, what's new? You got a girlfriend? Got a wife? Kids?" He goes, "No, man, I'm on trip number 23." He said, "If
Wow.
they want me here next year, I'll be on trip 24." And I was just like, "Wow." But he was always that special guy. I mean, while everyone else was going on 2 weeks of leave to scrape together what kind of normal life at home they could get before deployment or after deployment, he was in there, the single guy, telling the schools NCO, give me some schools. What's open? I don't want to go on vacation. I want to learn more." And it
Wow.
made sense to me. It was really, really, really the reason why I went to the Rangers,
Mm.
because I had that mentality from the get go that we weren't in a war. We hadn't been in a war in a long time. And
Right.
so my mentality was protecting the country during peacetime is important as well. But if for any instance something were to happen, I want to know I'm with the best trained guys around me to keep me alive and to keep them alive. And so the Rangers, my cousin had joined just a year before, and he was telling me all about it, and it appealed to me. I grew up with two vegetarian parents, and so shooting guns wasn't a whole lot. We shot some 22s, some rabbits, and stuff, but it gave me an opportunity to go to basic training. I was excited. Uh, I broke it to my parents the same way. I kind of told them I can't. I had gone to college for about a half a semester. Came back in between the break and was at home. And my dad said, "Hey, it didn't school start last Wednesday?" And I said, "Yeah, but I leave in 2 days to basic training." So I didn't really give them a heads up either. I just knew that was the direction I needed to go, and got on the plane and took off to basic training. And it was a it was a shocker. I mean, you watch basic training videos. I talked to my cousin. I talked to my brother who was in. He was getting out at the time. I was getting in, and you try to prepare the best you can. There's
Mm.
nothing to prepare you for that initial shock and awe of pulling up to basic training in the bus and all those brown round drill sergeants screaming in your face because you're still a kid. And
Right.
these are grown men. You're like, oh my God, they're gonna kill me. And you see them grabbing other kids, and everyone's holding their duffel bag over their head. And that was the culture shock that we needed, which unfortunately they don't do anymore today. That
Mm.
was what let us know we were no longer children. We were
Right.
no longer with mommy and daddy. We were with our brothers and sisters, those who were around us that were going to keep us alive in this job that we chose.
Hmm.
and we had to take care of each other, and we had to push hard. And it was a lot of it was self-interest. I mean, you always thought you were getting picked on, or they were looking for you, but the truth was, you looked around any given day, there's people getting scuffed up all around you.
Hmm.
You were never alone until you chose to be, unless you really screwed up, and then in which case pain helped you remember not to do it again.
Right.
Kind of like the child going to the outlet, smack them on the head. They're not going to do it again.
Right.
And you sit them down and you tell them, hey, 10,000 volts is going to go through your body and probably kill you. As soon as you turn around, the kid's like, what's 10,000 volts?
I think we've
So
all done that.
that little bit of pain was the initial psych, I guess, psychology aspect of it. Going
Mm.
into basic training uh, it was a shocker because I had never really left home a whole lot. We didn't vacation. And so culturally, I was growing up in New Mexico in Santa Fe, really small town and mostly Hispanic. And so going out and meeting all these new people from all over, Puerto Ricans and guys from New York City with their thick accents and people from the South, it was really what I thought about America, saying, this is what they used to talk about when I was a kid in school, where it's the melting pot or the
Right.
salad bowl. Everybody's putting together. And you start finding out different things about each other that are interesting and what you could bring to the team and what your traits and values and are and it's gets you out of that shell of being isolated or an introvert
Right.
because eventually you're going to need some help. And you find out it's a lot easier the more you start working together and you start talking together. That's what I loved from the get-go was the teamwork.
Hmm.
And then I went because I had already signed up for the contract for Airborne and Ranger. I went to Airborne school afterwards. That was interesting. They put this Marine E7 in charge of us. I'm a knucklehead private, straight out of boot. And I remember we're in the barracks, and this exposure to culture I tell you about is funny because this guy's yelling down the hallway, get inside your hatches and clean your portholes. I'm looking out the doorway. I'm like, what the hell's a porthole? It's the Navy and Marines way of calling it the windows, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
See, so I got a little bit of the integration of the different branches as well.
Mm.
And the hey, it didn't matter what branch they served in; they earned their rank, and you follow their leadership based off of their rank.
Right.
And you found out which instructors you could lean on and which ones were the ones you stayed away from. And but that was your buddies too.
Right.
And so finishing airborne school, it was a blast. I was a good runner. I New Mexico is about 7,000 feet above sea level, so going into basic training, I had no problem running. Airborne school, that it was actually great. My cousin was at best ranger competition at the same time, and it just worked out that he came over and he pinned on my airborne wings.
Oh, nice.
And so it was kind of a great drive on. Of course, he did the same thing my grandfather did. They send me the letters and basic training with all the stuff on the outside saying smoke the whole company or a bunch of tabless legs. And I'm going, oh God, why did my family sucks. And my grandfather sends it to addresses my envelope, General Petry, and puts a bunch of stars on it. And I'm like, oh man. But then I realized that when I got done, I said, I hope I know other people that are going to go because I'm going to do the same thing to them because you want them to suck. And that's what the veterans before us wanted. They didn't want us to have it easy. They wanted us to have it hard. They wanted us to be prepared. They wanted us to challenge ourselves, to be the best that we had for this country out there on the line. And so I really started absorbing. I matured way too young. I had 4 kids at the age of 24, deploying like crazy. And so
Mm.
became dad and ranger and father and husband and jack of all trades like many soldiers do.
Right.
Started going on those multiple deployments, and I don't know if you want me to fast forward if there's any specifics you want to ask, but ended up on that 7th deployment, Memorial Day 2008. This was a different deployment than the others. Our platoon got attached to the helos. So anywhere the Chinooks were going, we were the helo platoon. And so if they were going back to Bagram Air Base for maintenance, we were going with them. And so on admin flights, I used to love to sit up in what they call the hellhole, in between the two pilots in the back. And I'd sit up there and I would just be asking questions and questions and questions. I love flying in helicopters. In fact, the Chinook was one of my favorites. Um, I was actually, after that deployment, I was going to put in my flight packet. It wasn't that I didn't love rangering. It was monotonous. We were going, training the new guys, and I needed something for me to grow. And so I was going to go either to special forces or flight school. Flight school seemed the most appealing to me. Chinook being the fastest helicopter in our stock. I mean, I seen what that thing could do, and being a guy that's ridden in the back, I figured what better pilot to have than somebody that's rode in the back before. You know exactly what they need and how to deliver it and what its capabilities are. And we had some of the greatest pilots in the Army. And so as we get on this deployment, we're in Fob Sharana down in the south, kind of a little bit of Afghanistan. And normally Rangers operate during the cover of darkness, like to catch the enemy while they're sleeping. Believe it or not, a live terrorist is worth more than a dead terrorist, because dead ones don't talk. Dead ones spill the beans on all their buddies. And so during the daylight, we'll normally like call home, work out, do laundry, do our stuff that we do during the day. And then on this trip, though, our up tempo was so high. We were typically deployed about 4 months, but our up tempo was so high. Most of us would have rather stayed over there for a year instead of bouncing back and forth. It was hard to get stabilization at home that way. And so we were, it was early in the morning. I remember I got up, I went to the talk for whatever reason to check my email or something. And there's, sorry, just getting over being sick. But there's another officer, and he's sitting over there on the other side of the room at his laptop. And I just sat down, I logged in, and he jumps up from behind his laptop and he said, "Leroy, go wake up the pilots." I didn't even question what was going on. I just ran. "Roger that, sir." Start waking up the pilots. Of course, they're all passed out from playing Xbox all night. Just kidding, guys. Not really. But hey, come on, get up. And they're moving slow. And so I knew something was spiking. And so I went and woke up my guys. I didn't know what was going on, but I wanted them to be ready. "Hey, check your stuff, be ready. I don't know what's going on." And of course, everybody waking up for the first time. Team leaders start whipping into them. "Get your butt out of bed, you hear them?" And ran right back to the planning bay where we did some hasty planning. And next thing we know, we're moving out on 3 Chinooks to our target, landing just off target, about 300 yards. And as we're going in this helicopter, one of the first sergeants that was riding with us said it probably the best. He said, "Normally, you don't see the expressions and whatnot on other people's faces because you're looking through your night vision device and all you see is green faces. And it's pretty bland. But going in the daylight, you could see everybody's little bit of sense of uncomfortability. And that's important because that keeps you on the edge. And the whole time we're flying out to the target, I'm going through the mission, what phase lines we're going to be at, what building numbers and names, what I'm going to do if we get a casualty next to me. All these course of actions are going through your mind a million times because that's your last chance before you get to target. And as we all know, everybody has the best op order, best plan, whatever. It could all go to shit when you hit the ground. And so as soon as we hit the ground, Chinook ramp goes down and we're taking fire from a bed of random guy out in the terrace. It was a rural area, farmland mostly, and he's shooting at us from this terrace above us. Well, all the fire goes back and neutralizes the threat. And as the platoon leader and I move up to clear the body, I'm clearing the body, and we hear that one of our younger squad leaders, junior squad leaders, had gone into the wrong compound, but he was going back and fixing it. He was going across the street to the right one. I hear that, and I got my guns attached to the squad, so I'm kind of free floating. And I told the PL, "Hey, I'm going to go provide overwatch and guidance for those guys." And he said, "Go for it." By the time I caught up to them, they were a couple hundred yards down the road. They had already breached into the wall of a compound. It was probably about a 15-foot wall, 20-foot wall, all mud, adobe, and inside this courtyard, in the back corner, was a 2-story building, and then a smaller adjacent small building. For imagery, we called it a chicken coop. Of course, everybody hears that, and they're like, "Was there chickens in there?" No. It's just the size of the building. And so when they breached in this back corner, they went diagonal and went straight across to the other corner and started clearing the 2-story structure. I was the last guy in, so I stayed in the doorway of that 2-story structure, watching the courtyard and the adjacent building, saying, "Come on, give me another guy. I need another guy. We got to clear this courtyard and the building next to it." I'm watching, facing away with my rifle, and I don't even look. I get a tap on my shoulder. It was PFC Robinson. He's like, "You got one." Started to move. As soon as we started to move, break the corners, and we're going to the next building, 2 guys pop up 15, 20 feet away with AK-47s, just spraying from the hip. And I caught a round in the left leg, kind of hit me, kind of looked like that deer when it gets shot mid-run, or bucks a little bit and just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened. And what was going through my mind was, I knew I had been shot. I'd never been shot before, but I knew that was a bullet.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, I get out of here, they're going to pull it out. It's going to be a cool necklace. But the other thing that was going through my mind is, don't catch any more. Get the hell out of there. Get behind cover. And so I ran, got behind the little chicken coop. Robinson, who had got hit below his left armpit, ran behind me and immediately got cover. I saw him injured. I told him, "Hey, watch that corner. They're still shooting around the sides at us." And I'm watching the other corner. I get out a, what was it? A thermobaric grenade. So I didn't have a frag on me, so I just popped that and I threw it over. It went off, kind of bought us a lull in fire, where Sergeant Higgins came running toward our position. Immediately, I told him, "Hey, watch Robinson, watch that corner." I was watching my corner. I'm on the radio. I'm trying to get my command a picture of what's going on. Hey, we got 2 wounded Eagles. We still under heavy small arms fire. And then we hear a blast. Kind of shocks those 2, and they turn around. They're like, "What the hell is that?" And I said, "They're throwing grenades. Keep your heads down. Keep watching that corner." Checking my corner, checking my radio, checking on them. I'm kind of almost in a seated squatted position at this point. And when I go back to do another check for my guys, a frag had come over and landed right behind them. This building is like 7 feet wide, like 7 feet tall. So we're like right next to each other. And right as I reached over and grabbed it in an attempt to throw it away, as soon as I released it and opened my hand, it exploded. And I think because I had thrown it with all my force and I had my head down, I got shrapnel on my arms and legs, and I got one little nick on my nose. It was tiny, but I had my eye protection on, which was rare for me. I didn't always listen. I tried to do the right thing, but I'd always put on that eye pro and it'd fog up like crazy. And so normally 90% of the time when I'd come off that helicopter, first thing I'm doing is I'm pulling off that eye pro, because I would rather see the enemy before he shoots me than not see him. Right. And I know how important it is, but for whatever reason that day, I wasn't able to take off my eye pro, just with the enemy KIA that we took initially, running the adrenaline. And so I still have my eye pro downstairs in the basement, but it's covered in blood and it's got debris and whatnot. It saved my eyes. And I think about that a lot, because normally it would be in my cargo pocket. And no matter how bad I didn't keep them off all the time. I'd take them off for a while and I'd put them back on.
Sure.
And the cat crap and all the anti-fog that you have just doesn't work sometimes. and you make do with what you got.
Right.
So the grenade went off. I sat back up, and it looked just like that. The radius and the ulna were poking up about a half an inch. The skin almost, if you've seen that movie Pineapple Express, where the guy blows off both his hands and there's just like flayed out.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like that. Not as long of skin drapes, but it was just draped down like chewed up flesh. There was burns, dirt, debris. You could smell the burns and stuff. It was pretty gross. It was oozing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there and I'm looking at it. It was pretty vivid. And I'm in my mind, I'm going, why isn't this thing spraying 3 feet in the air like in the Hollywood movies? Why is it just oozing? And then reality kicked back in. Oh shit, I got to take care of this. So I reached down, grabbed a tourniquet, tied it off with my teeth. Immediately checked on my guys, who both of them got minor shrapnel. Got back on the radio. First sergeant came in from this direction toward me, and he reached down and he grabbed me by my kit and attempted to pull me up. And he goes, "Come on, we're going to get you out of here." And I pushed his arm and I said, "You're not taking me anywhere, not till you kill those SOBs behind the building and stop the volume of fire."
Right.
He saw that I was coherent. I'd already done Salfade, and he saw the guys next to me, and he knew the best thing they could do is take out the enemy that's still shooting. And so he said, "Hey, we'll be back for you." And they went and flanked. For whatever reason, we got another lull in fire. I was able to grab onto another guy. Might have been a platoon sergeant. I remember calling him on the radio. That was odd because you don't think about it when you say it. It was just another radio transmission for me. And I said, "Hey, we're still taking heavy small arms contact. They're throwing frags." And I lost my right hand. We got 3 Eagles wounded. And he heard it. And he talked about it later, about how I came across the radio and told him I lost my hand. And I thought about it afterwards. I was like, "What do you mean you lost your hand? That makes no sense on a radio transmission."
Mm.
But he said, "All right, I'm on my way." And we get out of there. I was able to run with the guys till we got to our CCP. And you get to the casualty collection point, you just see blood everywhere, and they're treating guys and they're dragging people around. And we had this one annoying medic. He was a good guy, but we gave him crap. He was a young E4, and he talked like Beaker from Muppets.
Muppets, yeah.
Yeah, so he runs up right in my face. "Hey, Sergeant, we got to treat you." I was like, "I'm good. I'm good. I already got a tourniquet. Help those guys." And he says, "Well, we already got some guys helping them. We need to look at your legs." And I completely forgot about my legs. So I looked down, and my pants are just soaked in blood all the way down to the boots. And I knew mentally I didn't want to leave the fight. I wanted to do whatever I could, even if that meant giving my last breath to give a radio transmission that would help the guys. But physically, I knew I wasn't helping anybody by bleeding out. So I sat down, and they cut off my pants. And we're not sure if it was one bullet or two, but it went through both my upper thighs, missed all the arteries, missed all the bone. And for a 7.62 from 15 feet away, I mean, that was my first miracle that day. And I'm grateful that I have both my legs. I didn't lose them, but they packaged me up in the Skidco, or the litter. And I know we were going up to this HLZ. It was just up the hill a little ways. And so there's these guys carrying me, and you hear them all. They're exhausted. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not that much of a fat ass, because they're all going. But you think about it, you got all your body armor, all your gear, and you don't think about how much you weigh.
Right.
You got to carry everything. It's dead weight. And so it makes sense when we train hard and we load those water cans on there with the patient, just to make you realize it's going to be a hard day when it happens. And so guys are running up to the side of the litter as they're carrying me up this hill, and they're yelling, "Hey, you're going to be all right. You're going to be all right." And I'm pushing them away with my only good hand. "Get away, pull security." Because in my mind, I haven't left the fight. I don't want that guy to get shot coming to comfort me.
Right.
Worse, I don't want to get shot in a litter where I can't defend myself. Then I'll really be pissed. But we get up to the bird, and they load us on the ramp. I remember there were some bearded guys in there, and they were coming to help the ground forces. And I'd worked with them a year before in the other country, and I remember that somebody came on the ramp on the right, and they're like, "No, no, stay on." They were all excited to come off, and like, "No, stay on, stay on." Ground forces commander said he didn't need you, and I was like, "Ha ha, how does it feel?" Because it was usually us getting that, "Hey, we don't need you, Rangers." But I didn't think about it. We just got on the Chinook and we flew back to Fob Sharana. It was a little bit of a ride, but we get there and they dump us off the back of the Chinook on the side of this dirt airfield, and the Chinooks take back off, and I'm going, "What are we doing?" And I can't move, so I'm laying there. And luckily, we have two PAs in our unit. Both of them I've known for years, and they're both working on me there. And so I never I never seen a fentanyl pop in my life. We always heard about them, and we joked with the doc, "Hey, doc, give me a fentanyl pop."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking it's like a sucker with medicine in it. So doc gives me two fentanyl pops, hands them over to me, and they're kind of like plastic on the bottom, and they're kind of like the dipping sticks candy on top. And so he hands them to me, and I bite off the ends. I threw the plastic sticks, chewed them up, and not more than a minute later, he turns around and he goes, "Petry, what did you do those fentanyls I gave you?" I said, "I chewed them up. I threw the sticks over there." And he goes, smack, hits me in the head. He goes, "You moron, you're supposed to suck on them or you don't get the medicine." There's two more. I was like, well, but I hear at that point them talking off in the distance, and they're talking about losing the vitals on one of our guys. And I hear them say fixed wings 30 minutes out. And so in my mind, I'm trying to think of who we lost vitals on. I don't want to ask. There's too much going on. But I'm thinking, was it Robinson? Was it Higgins? They were right next to me, but they didn't seem like they were bad. Did they miss something? Did shrapnel get them? And it wasn't until later I found out, a few months down the road, because I was medevacing back, and I was so consumed in the system with drugs too that found out later that it was Gaither Cole, young E4. He had come out. He was coming out to help us on the building, and another guy had popped up across the courtyard. We didn't even know it was there, and he just lit him up and basically hit him below the helmet, almost killed him instantly. And that was the tough part, is hearing about that. Still friends with his brother and his sister. Yeah, he wasn't in my squad, but he was in my platoon, and I didn't know him really well, but I knew his character, and he was just a spectacular young man that would help anybody and give them the shirt off their back. And I got the opportunity a few years back to go down with some Medal of Honor recipients and do some gator hunting in Florida. I wanted to bag a gator just so I could put the head in the bar at 275 for gator, because that was his nickname. Gaither Cole was Gator. And so I go down there, and I'm watching all these videos. People fishing them from the shore, people hitting them from boats with boomsticks, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm going to fall in the water. I'm going to get eaten by an alligator. I'm going to end up like Chubbs, losing the other hand, reaching for something. And I was nervous, but they had him baited, and we pulled him in and got him. But I did get the head taxidermist, and it's up at the battalion bar, and it said captured in honor of Christopher Gaither Cole.
Nice.
So that's the hardest part, because we all get to come home, and the ones that don't,
right,
those families are left with that scar forever. The Gold Star families, I spoke with another one up in Alaska, and she said the mom, and she had said she had never been down to our unit and seen the memorial, and how everyone would call in it at first, and then it kind of just dissipated. And I said, it's the same with the wounded veterans. When you're initially injured and you're in the hospital, everyone's there.
Right.
It's going to go away because everyone thinks you're healing and you're better. And I said, but it's not. It's a lifetime of roller coasters, ups and downs. And I said, just because that same battalion commander is not at that unit, don't fault him. he's probably moved on to a bigger unit and has more problems and more issues. It's not that you're forgotten about. It's just that the time isn't there. He's got his own family, his own kids, plus he's got probably a battalion or a brigade now. And I said, but don't feel that you can't call whatever commander's the head of that unit and tell them who you are. And I guarantee you they will open the doors for you, because no one ever wanted you to feel like that when they said, hey, you're a Gold Star family member. You're a family member. That's for life.
Right.
And it's just like the war. Initially, 9/11 happened. I was in Cole Range down at pre-Ranger, getting ready for Ranger School.
Mm-hmm.
That was a mess. We had a bunch of guys. We started Ranger School a few days after 9/11. We never got to see anything. But there was guys quitting in the PT test because they thought they were going to miss a deployment with their unit. They got back to their unit and they got released for standards. They said, we don't take back quitters. That was your place of duty.
Wow.
And it was tough to hear that and see that, but it was accountability.
Right.
That's what I loved about them, is that it was always take responsibility for your actions, be responsible, and have accountability. And so it made me grow up really fast, having the great leaders that I did above me that taught me well to pay attention. This stuff can save your life one day.
Right. So how did you find out you were going to get the Medal of Honor? I mean, this
is an interesting story. So I'm down in San Antonio. This is like 4 or 5 days after injury. I went one day. I woke up in Germany the next morning. I woke up in Andrews Air Force Base the next morning. And it seems like I would wake up and they'd be like, all right, you're getting on a plane this afternoon. And then ended up in San Antonio within like 3 or 4 days, which is unheard of almost. Well, I'm down there. I'm going through my rehab. I got these 2 like man purses that have these big wound vac machines that hooked with hoses to my leg to suck out all the stuff, all the nastiness. I got a cane. I'm walking with a cane. I didn't want the guys to see me broken, so I was trying to rehab as fast as I could.
Right.
Plus, you got a bunch of wounded people there as well. In fact, we were taking large numbers of casualties, and you never saw them because they medevaced out and they either transitioned out. Most of them didn't stay in. And you heard about them, but you didn't see them. Well, I get to San Antonio, and when I get outpatient, I'm looking around this place, and it's like The Walking Dead. There's burned people everywhere, people missing arms and legs. I'm like, holy cow, this is a zombie apocalypse. And I'm one of them. But it was, but they all had the greatest attitude. In fact, before my family could get down there, the first person to come see me in my bed was this young female. She was EOD for the Army, and she was, I think, in Iraq, and there was some homemade explosives that was falling as she went to grab it, and it blew off both of her arms above the elbow. And she had some plastic surgery. She was a little further along in her recovery than I was. But she's sitting there on the side of the bed, and she's telling me how much I'm going to love this place and what they had at the building next door. And the whole time I'm looking up at her, I'm going through my mind, God, there's this young girl, and I know how much females do throughout their lifetime with makeup and everything else. She's going to be relying on somebody the rest of her life. And I got one good arm. I got nothing to complain about at all. And I met some that were worse than her. But everybody had a great attitude. I know I'm getting off the Medal of Honor.
No, that's all right.
So this is a great story, though. But we get to the next facility. It's called the Center for Intrepid. It was built by private donations. It's right next to the hospital there in San Antonio. I think the military took it over in 2011 or 13. But originally in 07, this place was phenomenal. 4 or 5 stories. It's got a track. It's got a pool with surfing in it. It has a facility that I think, what's the name of it? Universal Studios helped them design for sensors and stuff. So when these guys would come in and they missed, both guys or girls, they'd missed both their legs, they put them on these shorts. They call them stumpies. And they were tiny little legs, and they had to learn how to walk again. They put the feet backwards because they actually had to learn how to walk again using new legs. And what these sensors would do when they get their legs is it would measure their gait and their walk, and there's different terrain in there, grass and rocks and you name it. And the process is able to go back to the computer and measure and make adjustments to the leg so that it makes their walk almost perfect. So you see a lot of these amputees that put on pants and you can't even tell they're missing legs.
Mm-hmm.
But the drive was down there from all the different branches. Everyone that was wounded was pushing each other to recover more and push themselves harder to get better. And it made the recovery process great. In fact, there was this one guy came in, and he was, I'm trying to look for it. I don't have a pen. I'll use this. And we're in the physical therapy. I'm working out on a machine over here, and all we hear is him start, The physical therapist, he just lost his leg above the knee, and the physical therapist pushing back on his quad and what's left of his leg, trying to stretch out his hamstrings. And he's screaming. And it's getting louder and louder. Getting to a point where people are stopping working out. And I'm like, holy cow, is that guy Air Force? I'm just joking. And I go over there and I tell the physical therapist, hey, let me talk to him for a minute. And she's like, okay. And I said, hey, look, man, this is going to hurt. Type of injury you sustained, it's going to hurt, unfortunately, for the rest of your life. So you got to watch out how much you try to mitigate those pills, because you're going to want those to work when you get really old and really slow. I said, but I got a little trick that'll help you with the pain or times that are tough, any difficult situations. Take a Bic pen. I know this isn't a Bic pen, but the cheap ones you get from like a Holiday Inn Express or something.
Mm-hmm.
You take the cap off, put that to the side, pull out the plunger out of the back, put that with the other cap, and then pull out the ink and the insides, put that with the other two caps. And then I looked at him and I told him, then you take the tube or cylinder, whatever you want to call it, use it like a straw and suck it up. And he smiled and he looked around the room and he realized that nobody else was going through anything different. Some were going through worse, and that he was going to get through it. And that's really what gives a lot of our troops that confidence, is that healthy competitiveness that we give each other crap all the time. And it's not because we want to belittle each other. It's because we want to see the best in each other.
Right.
And so while I'm down here doing this rehab, my commander, my company commander, and my first sergeant show up with their wives. Mind you, they were just redeploying from overseas. So I guess in Germany, they decided to make a call to have their wives fly down to San Antonio, and then they flew direct down to San Antonio. And it's striking me as odd. I'm like, what the hell is the commander and first sergeant doing here? Who's taking care of turning in 100%? I was like, they left that to the platoon sergeants? What the hell's going on here? And the XO, and something just wasn't right for the unit to go back and for them to come down there. And of course, they're expecting to see me laid up in a bed and all this and that. And I'm walking around with a cane and we're hanging out. We're behind the hotel. We're smoking cigars. They're catching me up on everything I missed on the rest of the deployment. And then they told me that they put me in for the Medal of Honor.
Hmm.
And I think the best way I can say it was already said before. My wife, when I first got injured down there, she came to visit me for a few days, her and the kids, and our oldest daughter was graduating high school. And so I'm there for like 4 days, and then they're like, oh, I don't want to leave you. But I was like, get out of here, I'm fine, go back. And they went back to graduation. And so she left me. She didn't want to leave me with nothing. So she went and got a bunch of books and DVDs and stuff. And one of the books she gave to me was a Medal of Honor coffee table book, Portraits of Valor. And on that version at that time had a DVD on the inside of the cover. And I must have watched that DVD million times. It had living recipients telling their stories, and all the books had all their stories. And when they told me that, I saw this video that made the most sense. The guy said something to the effect of, it wasn't about being put in for the Medal of Honor. Just knowing that the guys that were around you that day thought you were worthy of being put in for it was enough. And so I felt the same way at that moment.
Right.
And I didn't care if it went through. Um, I figured if it goes through, I'll use it as a platform to help others. And if it doesn't go through, then I still have the job that I love that I'm doing. And so I ended up re-enlisting for 6 more years before it even went through, because I didn't really care. In fact, I would be walking across the quad when I got back to doing my job, and people would come up to me in between companies and be like, "Hey, did you hear it passed SOCOM or it passed JSOC or CENTCOM?" And people would give me updates like in the middle of the day, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's cool." 'Cause I didn't track it. Nobody told me, and I didn't really care. Um, but then it came along, and it was a heck of a ceremony.
Was it a blur? Do you remember it? Or
A little bit.
yeah, I would imagine that the whole thing's got to be, a blur, overwhelming.
It was well, it's not for you. You realize
Right.
it. The right person realizes it's not for you. And for me, the highlight was most of the guys that were on that mission were able to be there. There were some that weren't because they were deployed or whatever, but they brought in a lot of the guys, flew them in on a C-17 to Andrews Air Force Base, chartered buses with police escorts through downtown DC to get them to the hotel. And all I heard was those guys talking about how great that was. And we had police escort too, but I wanted to see the smiles on my guys and give them the recognition that a lot of them don't get. Because I tell people that medal belongs to all of us. It gets lighter on me the more people I share it with. And most people don't know what a ranger is. Oh, I got a friend. He's a ranger in 101st. No, he's ranger qualified, not a ranger. And so do you work in the forests? No, not that kind of park ranger. Which we didn't really need a recognition. We didn't care. Every deployment, we came back in the cover of darkness. We turned in our gear. The wives were told to stay out of the barracks. Don't distract them. The faster they get their stuff turned in, the faster they could go home. And so there was never a parade. There was nothing for us. In fact, I was stationed up here in Washington State, and I saw a lot of the protests and whatnot during Iraq, and right outside the base on the bridges, stuff like that. I mean, you endure all this stuff, but it's expected. Because for 99 people that love you, you're going to have one that doesn't understand, and they're going to hate you for whatever reasons they want. And it's the same with anything that people talk about. People are going to judge what they say. You got to be content in your heart that you know the truth is.
Right. So did Higgins and Robinson, were they able to make it?
Yeah. In fact, they both went out on missions, I think, the next day. They both stayed in for a little bit longer. Robinson's getting married in September next month, and he's a cop out in North Carolina. And Higgins has 6 kids out in Oregon.
Wow.
In fact,
but that's awesome. But I meant, were they able to make it to the White House for the ceremony?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they showed up. I just saw Robinson last year, which I try to stay in contact with those guys. It's hard. Everybody gets busy, but one of the best things. So you go to the White House ceremony, and then the next day is a Pentagon ceremony. Well, then after that, they wanted us to go to New York, and so my wife and family and I were headed up to New York at like 6 a.m. Get there, go meet Mayor Bloomberg, and we're all just like, whoa, still trying to gather where we're at. And then they take us to Fox. I think it was Fox and Friends. We're on the couch, whole family, and they pan over to my son. They're asking questions, and he was 7 at the time. He's at the end, and they asked him, how do you feel about your dad going to the White House, meeting the president, and receiving the Medal of Honor? And I'm looking down the couch going, oh, crap. This is live TV. What's he going to say? My eyeballs are like this as the camera goes to him. And I'm like, and he looks at the camera, sits up a little bit straighter, takes a deep breath. He says, I'm really proud of my dad, but I'm more happy that he saved some of his buddies and they're still alive.
That's deep for a 7-year-old.
I was like, yes, that he gets it. And I said, that's what I want. I want kids at 7 years old in this country to understand what this country's about, what this life's about. And I tell people that quite a bit, that you don't have to thank a veteran. I mean, it's great. I love thanks because we didn't get very many, and everyone's means a lot to me. But what most of us want, what most of us signed up for, was we just want people to be good patriots, good citizens of this country. Be somebody worth fighting for. Be somebody worth dying for. Be somebody worth sacrificing for.
Right. One of my podcasts that I did with Gold Star mom Cheryl Rex. Her son was Dylan Marola. He was killed in Afghanistan August 26, 2021 at the pullout. So, but the first conversation I did with her, I asked, what should people take away from the conversation? And she said, she just would hope people live their best lives because Dylan didn't get a chance to do it. I mean, that goes to exactly what you're saying. We all need to be worth what you went through, what your brothers, what Dylan Marola went through. And, I would think it would be horrible to die for an ungrateful country.
Yeah. But it's not the whole country.
No, it's definitely not.
That was the hard thing for the Vietnam veterans. They had to go fight an unpopular war and come back to an ungrateful country.
Oh, I know.
But I'm happy that such men lived.
Yeah,
and that's what you got to be content with, is that a lot of our medics and a lot of the folks were having issues during all those deployments and stuff. Guys would pull me aside and they'd be like, hey, can I talk to you? I'd be like, yeah, what's up? No, in private. Yeah, let's go talk. What's going on? And I put a lot of guys on helicopters. I put them in the back of Humvees, put them on stretchers. I don't know if what I did helped them. I never saw them again. They weren't from our unit, or they were civilian casualties, this and that. And so a lot of the closure for a lot of folks was kind of not there. Right. And some of them were struggling with that. And that's the best way I could explain it to this young kid was, you may never know. You may never meet that person again in your lifetime. All you can hope for and be content with is there might be another Leroy running around because you worked on him. And at the end of the day, that's all we can be content with, is that I did my best while I was there.
Right.
And when the Afghanistan pullout happened, I was messed up for about 3 days. I felt the same way. It made me feel like a Vietnam veteran. What the hell did we do it for? We left all our stuff over there. How many times we got to go back and take over Iraq just to give it up again and go back? And I said, and why did we abandon them? I said, we were moving along. We started too late training them up. They were conducting their own missions. You know what I wish they would have shown on TV? The Afghan casualties the last 3 years. Because they were taking front seat and they were dropping their own bombs and leading their own missions. They were taking a brunt of the force. And we decided, hey, see you later. You got 4 months to figure it out. Most of the country had less than a second grade level education.
Right.
I mean, we weren't only training them, we were educating them. It was a lot of work to do there, and it took us a lot of time. Some things we weren't focusing on right, and we figured those out. We got them into the crawl phase. And we left them in the crawl phase. They weren't ready to run, and that's why they collapsed when we left.
Right.
We didn't even ask them. We just told them, see you later.
Yep.
We're done here. Well, and it was sad. That was the first ramp ceremony I'd ever gone to. I went to the young female sergeant Marine that was killed on the exit. I just happened to be in Boston. They told me that was going on, and it's kind of bad on my part. I didn't tell any of the other recipients. we were going to one of the old ships, and that was already planned. And I knew most of the guys would have abandoned that and came to the ramp side ceremony. And so I said, no, we don't all need to be there, but one of us needs to be there to welcome her home and her family. That really hit me hard. I had never been to one of those, and I lost buddies and stuff, but seeing that ramp side ceremony and seeing that family come up and hug that casket and break down, and you can't help but think of your own family, your own kids. And that's why we talk about the weight not only being on the service member, but on the entire family.
Right.
They don't know if we're safe. There's some days we weren't doing crap. They're still worried about us because they don't know.
Right.
And they suffer the aftermath of us not coming home, us coming home different. It's a sacrifice by the entire family.
Yeah.
In fact, it was part of the push. They're like, after the Pentagon ceremony, you're going to go to New York and your family's going to go back home. I was like, I was like, you guys say Army family all the time. If my family's not going with me, I'm not going. And it made them spiral, but it held accountability to them because it made sense to have the family there because they served with them.
Wow.
Well, it's tough. Accountability is going away in this country. It's hard to see.
Our country's changing a lot. A lot of it I don't even recognize.
Well, it's. I think the best way I heard it put, I kind of mixed it into two things, but it's not that anyone's against each other. They're just all out for themselves. For the most part.
Oh, I know. Well, I'll tell you what.
That's the hardest part about transitioning that they talk about.
Yeah.
People say that, and the transition is different for everyone. You go back to different areas. In fact, my son and I were talking about this, or my son's friend, because he's like, "Oh, you don't get your property tax waived?" And I said, "No, I'm 100%, but they only waive it if you make less than, I think, 43,000." Who owns a house up near Seattle that makes less than 43 grand? But we were talking about the states and how the benefits are different in all these states for our veterans. And I told him that's completely obtuse because we fought for the entire country. It shouldn't matter which state we choose to live in when we come home. Exactly. Our benefits should be the same across the board, and they should be the best.
Yep.
So if you find a state that has better than your state, you better match them or do better.
Right.
But that's what happens when we leave stuff up to the states and not federally regulate.
Right.
Which you're not an employee anymore.
No.
That's usually how it goes. You're not working anymore. See you later.
How's the VA been with you? They've been good?
I've had my challenges just like everybody else. It's people.
Right.
You don't take the whole VA and butcher it up because you run into one bad apple. Right. I tell people it's kind of like the military, law enforcement, whatever you take, a large organization. It's like an orchard of apples. You're going to have a few rotten apples in there. Don't burn the whole orchard. Just get rid of the rotten apples.
Yep. I agree. So, you talked earlier about, almost getting forgotten. This past January, it kind of hit me because I told you about Cheryl Rex and her son, Dylan. One of the other 13, his name was Maxton Soviak. He was from Ohio. I do a lot of charity work with his family and their, the Maxton Soviak Foundation. So this past January, I decided to start reaching out to every member of Congress that I could find. We have a lot of stupid a lot of the emails that I could find. We have a lot of stupid holidays in this country, like National
Pizza Day,
National Pizza Day, National No Bra Day, National Blue Tie Day, stupid days. So,
well, then we had a lot of stupid laws too, because what we've done in this country is we've diluted it.
Yes.
We've diluted things so bad that they're not comprehensible anymore. It's Albert Einstein said the hardest thing to understand in this country is our tax laws. What we've done is we've overloaded too much information to people, and we've given them basically a Cheesecake Factory menu.
Right.
and they can't pick. And when they do pick, they want instant gratification.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I did, because I have such a soft spot in my heart for my fellow veterans, but what happened on August 26, 2021, talking with people, even here in Ohio, most people don't even know what happened, who they were, can name even two people. Even if I gave them Max and Soviak as one of the names, they couldn't name two people. So being close to a couple of the families, I reached out to Congress. I wanted them to make August 26th a national day of mourning for those 13 that were killed in the pullout. Not one congressman got back to me. So, I mean, that kind of tells me how the government works. But then I did a podcast with my congressman, and I've become friends with my congressman, and I brought that up to him, and he agreed that should be a national day of mourning. But I also decided to take it to a local level. And I reached out to the mayor of my city and I said, "Hey, mayor, I have a proposition. I want to talk to you about something." So we went and met for lunch. And while I was in the middle of my pitch, he says, "All right, I'm in." So I was able to convince the Mayor Biassiata from Seven Hills, Ohio, we're going to have a community day of mourning for all 13 of those that were killed on August 26th, a week from Monday. So,
Is he doing
and
a resolution?
I'm sorry,
Is he doing a resolution?
he's doing a proclamation. He's going to make that day forever a community day of mourning. We're going to lower the flags. We're going to get everybody in attendance to say all the names, as you know, we're going to say them all out loud. So their names can be constantly set. We're going to keep that name out there in the stratosphere or whatever, but
Well, you know what that does is it becomes one
keeps
of
that memory alive.
things.
Yeah.
Instead of remembering National Pizza Day, it gives them something good to remember.
Yeah. So we're going to do that. And I've already gotten the color guard. They're going to come. We have somebody to sing the national anthem. I'm reaching out to all the community and military and veterans in the area. So hopefully it's a good turnout. But
Don't forget to tell them to get that Patriot Project wagon out there.
yeah, I'm going to reach out to them too. But Brian Bowman, he's going to try to make it. Active duty people I've already talked to, the media. But I told Rachel Soviak, which is Maxton's mom, a couple of years ago, with my business that I have, I help raise a lot of money for different charities. And I told her, I said, "Listen, if you ever need anything for the charity, just let me know. And no matter what you need, I'm there for you." And she says, "Joe, what I really want you to do is I want you to help keep Maxton's memory alive." And I said, "Rachel, I promise you I will do that forever. As long as I can, I'll do it." And then talking to these people who didn't even know these, the story or these people and what they did and sacrificed. So we're all going to get together and we're going to honor the sacrifices of those 13. So while, I took this as my project. I just don't want these people to be lost to just being a number, just 13 random.
Well, you're now phase one.
Yeah.
Now you get the people together, and then you say, "Hey, next year, let's work on raising money to build a monument."
Mm-hmm.
And then you keep going from there, and every year you keep adding to it so people don't forget and they keep coming back.
Right. Well, I want to keep doing this. I asked the mayor and the mayor of Independence, Ohio. He also wanted to do something special. So I asked them to print me 13 resolutions, or proclamations, 13 proclamations, one for each of the families. And I will make sure every family gets that. So they know, Cheryl Rex lives in, California, Southern California. She's going to know that on the day her son died, on the 3-year anniversary, some people way over in Seven Hills, Ohio, were saying her son's name. And Nicole G's family is going to know the same thing. And there's going to be part of the Soviak family will be at this memorial that I arranged on the 26th. So some of the family will actually be there. So
That's
I
awesome.
may be a veteran, but I'm also a huge supporter of my fellow veterans, and I don't want guys like you coming home and like they did in Vietnam. Like, what did I do this for? Why did I have to give up my arm? I there's always going to be guys like me that are going to
Well,
have your
that's
back.
what most of our veterans try to do. They
Hmm.
try to go be good pillars in their communities in which they live.
Right.
Because what does that do? That enhances their own community. That makes their backyard better and safer.
Yep.
Why would you not want to invest in that?
Well, I've done a lot of charity work with, and I'm sure you know him. He's a fellow Army guy, Travis Mills.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. So quadruple amputee. So anytime I think I'm having a bad day, all I have to do is think about Travis. And I'll tell you what, no matter what room he's in, he'll have the biggest smile in the room.
but
So
he does a lot with
he-
his organization.
yeah, he definitely does a lot.
And
And I have some useless trivia for you too. I have a Medal of Honor winner in my family.
recipient, you got to call them recipients,
I,
not
I
winners.
always say winner and then I correct myself. It's not winner, it's recipient. Yes.
That's
I
a good
have a
word, man. But that's the thing is that people that are uneducated, that's what this does. Is it educates them.
Yeah, I always say winner, but then I always correct myself. One of these days, it's not even going to be come out that way. But I have a Medal of Honor recipient in my family. He got the Medal of Honor in the Civil War.
Oh wow.
Charles D. Ennis got the Medal of Honor in the Civil War. His mother was a Burdick, so she was the relative, but her son is obviously makes
You
him a family member.
you could probably get in touch with the Congressional Medal of Honor Society in Charleston, South Carolina,
Hmm.
at Patriots Point, and they have the archives there. They can probably give you everything they have on him.
Yeah,
They got
I'll have to check it
more,
out.
we have a lot more than what's on the internet.
And you guys are getting a new place in Texas, right?
That's a separate from us.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, but it's another Medal of Honor museum. There's several Medal of Honor places throughout the country.
Mhm.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. I think they got one out in California with oh gosh, what's his name? Buddy Murphy. There's a few throughout the ours. The one that belongs to the society is in Charleston and Patriots Point on board the USS Yorktown. In fact, we just put about $3 million into it last year and reopened it up.
Yeah, I went there a few years ago on a vacation and I dragged my kids on that carrier and I pretty much secured that they will never join the Navy. I have a picture of my daughter walking through that carrier walking through one of those openings. And it was about 100 degrees and she's miserable and this look on her face. She'll never join the military.
Well, I think about that too. Just I went to go talk to some basic trainings, and they just got done with like a 8 mile road march, and they're all standing around. And of course, I'm in like a sport coat, and I'm like, "Pew, you guys stink!" And then I remember that's the way I smell.
Yeah.
And even overseas, when everybody, you don't mind it because everybody smells the same way. It's not like you're in a suit. You're supposed to
Hmm.
be stinky and working.
Right.
You're not sweating. You're not working hard enough.
Well, I would imagine if somebody smelled like cologne, they'd be you'd be giving them the business.
Oh yeah.
Now, do you have any good stories in any of your deployments?
Oh,
Something funny that
got a lot
you
of
know,
stories.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Oh boy.
I mean, you had to be pranksters in the
Oh yeah.
Rangers, right?
You keep yourself. You keep entertain yourself. In fact, I think I was the guy. Was young Eth, 3 or 4, and we're coming back, and we're just bored. So we
Hmm.
start challenging each other to do stupid stuff. And one of the guys comes in with a can of pear halves from the chow hall, 140 ounces.
Hmm.
And of course, the bets start going in. Oh, $20 if you eat the whole thing. $20. I forget what it was. It was like up to 100 and something. But I ate them all. And then they're like, no, you got to drink the juice. I felt like John Candy on The Great Outdoors. Big mistake. There's so much fiber in there. Don't eat a whole can.
That's
But
funny.
and so then it became, oh, Leroy, you eat anything. He's like Mikey. And so we're waiting for the Freedom Bird to come back. And this guy's got this hot sauce that somebody sent him with this guy that's on fire on the front of it. And of course, I'll do it.
Did you do
And
it?
oh yeah. And sure enough, we're flying C-17 back to Germany. Everyone's passed out. Leroy's sitting next to the latrine the whole time, just sweating, saying I shouldn't have done that before I got on the plane. Uh, we had mostly the normal guy games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we were a platoon that didn't have any females, and so there was a lot of testosterone. Guys getting into arguments all the time, and also that movie Waiting, when that came out. You see that one?
Mm-hmm.
That caused mischief. Everybody's trying to do the goat. I don't know. I don't know about funny. I know I could probably think of a few things. They're not rated for podcasts though.
Well, let me ask you, one of the things that I wanted to ask you. So when that grenade came in there, I mean, I know I'm bouncing back to 2008, but when that grenade came in, did you ever think? Did you have time to think in that second to decide what you were going to? Did you ever think about jumping on it? What's the training for something like that?
The
I'm sure
training,
the Army tells you
roll away.
roll away.
Yeah, roll away out of the blast area. But I think it was a year or two before the kid had just got a Medal of Honor in Iraq posthumously. I think it was the gun truck was going under an overpass. They dropped a grenade in the top of the gunner's hatch. The guy dove on top of it. And when something like that happens and you're still deployed or you're deploying and you're still at war, everybody's talking about it. Oh my gosh, did you see this? Because it's big news. Mm-hmm. And I really got to talking about it with a few of my guys and thinking about it. I know a grenade has up to a 6-second fuse. That's because of the training and everything. And you know that time, weather, all those things permit the fuse to go. That was always the thought in my mind processes. Did they cook it off? Did they do this? Did they do that? And I thought about it. I said, if you have time to see it, you have time to react to it. And I thought about it. I said, granted, you're in an enclosed room or in a vehicle. Yeah, you're going to cover it up. That's the only way to save your buddies. But if you're out in the open, I was like, you have time to kick it. You have time to throw it. Do whatever you can. The last thing I'm going to do is jump on it. Mm-hmm. It made me feel real bad because there's a lot of people that have jumped on them out in the open. In fact, there's some that it didn't go off.
Right.
And so having that in my mind about a 6-second fuse and reacting to it, plus looking at it, not even really second thinking about it, just looking at those guys like I looked at them, like I look at my children, like I look at my brothers, and grab it and get it away from them.
Right.
And so it was almost instantaneously. I knew what to do. But that's the difference between fear and courage for a lot of people. Fear is when they're sitting there and they're contemplating, how is this going to affect me? Am I going to get fired? And what are all the bad things that are going to happen if I do this? Mm-hmm. Where courage, you already know the right thing to do. You just do it and you say, hey, we'll figure out the collateral damage afterwards. But not doing something is worse.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
But that's a lot of what Ranger School they try to teach in Ranger School is you're not going to have the perfect answer.
Right.
You may never have the perfect answer, but for God's sake, make an answer.
I've been binging through Band of Brothers. I can't believe I've never watched that before, but
Guilty.
Oh, really? Now, can you watch movies like that after going through war like you have?
Yeah, I was talking to my son about this, where you could have two people side by side, see the same exact battlefield, completely different. Mm-hmm. One will come back home and traumatized by it, and the other not. I don't know what it is. I just got used to the deployments, turning it off, turning it on. I mean, I didn't have a choice. I was coming home to 4 kids, brand new baby.
Right.
You don't have a choice to turn it on. You turn it off, your responsibility is dad.
Right.
Responsibility is take care of the kids. And sometimes you just got to dig deep into that intestinal fortitude and say, hey, as much as I want to be the asshole and not like fireworks, it's a part of life. I got to fucking learn to live with it.
Right.
Excuse my language. I
You know
did get
what?
in trouble. I got in trouble in BNOC for saying ass.
You're good here. This is
I
for
was.
adults.
So here's your funny story.
Okay.
I'm in the back of the bus. We're leaving the barracks to go to the schoolhouse. I'm
Mhm.
joking with some guys in the back, and I say the word ass. Next thing I know, the freaking E7 up at the front, Sergeant Petry, she's yelling at me, get up there. And I'm trying to go up to the front of the bus. Yes, Sergeant. What did you say back there? I heard you. What did you say? Ass. What? You know what cursing? You owe me 1,000-word essay tomorrow morning on cursing in the military. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm thinking, great. Dad's job is to go write an essay now when I get home after all this. And so I get home and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, man, Mark Simpson says ass. I said, I get it. It's not professional, but we're in the back of the bus going to the schoolhouse, a bunch of staff sergeants in the military. And this is where people blow out the priorities and this and that. So I decided to make light of it. I write this masterpiece at home. I mean, I am loving it. I am so proud of my work. I go into the next day there early. She comes in and she's at the front of the class. Hey, Leroy, where's that essay? Here you go. Not the brightest lady, but she starts reading it. Before she even proofreads it, she's reading it out loud to the class. And she starts it out. Flatulence, cursing in the military is like flatulence. Sometimes it slips out, and all you could do is say, excuse me. The whole class just starts busting up laughing. I don't even think she knew what the word flatulence meant. But she gets pissed, and she crumbles it up and throws it in the trash can. I'm like, oh, my God. That's just the introduction. You didn't even get to the good stuff.
Well, if she was offended by ass, she never would have made it in around Navy guys.
But it is. I mean, it is. It's just like a fart. I mean, you're around it for so long, so much. It slips out sometimes. But it's just a word.
Right.
And people have manipulated words for years. And words are not bad unless you use them in a derogatory manner.
Right.
I mean, I've seen it used as an adjective for great stuff. This is freaking awesome. This kicks ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on the context which you use it for, if it's negative or positive. But we're so quick to say it's all bad and negative.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
I know.
society will deem what's good and bad for you before you let it out of your mouth.
Right. So what was President Obama like?
It was during the budget. It was pretty crappy at that time.
Yeah.
Everything was fast, and we're up in the Oval Office, and I'm up there. I'm like, I mean, it's first time in the Oval Office.
Sure.
And so next thing I know, I'm just taking it in, and I feel a hand on my shoulder, and it's him, and he's like, all right, let's get going. And so we're walking toward the door, and one of his aides tells him, Mr. President, aren't you going to sign the citation? And I turned around, and I was like, yeah, it's not official unless you sign that thing. And so he goes back to his desk, and I asked if I could come watch him sign it, because I knew he was left-handed, and I'm new to this left-handed thing. So I asked him, do you have any tips for me so I don't get Sharpie and stuff all over my hand when I'm writing? And he gave me some writing tips for writing left-handed. So it was pretty cool. I had mixed feelings of him. He's a very well-spoken man, but good politician. I've seen him say 180s from one room to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So, but anybody that does that job, I respect them, because it's not only a burden on them, it's a burden on their family, and they lose their life for the rest of their life. They can't go anywhere.
Right. Yep.
People think it's a great life. It's that sacrifice. no matter who it is, we beat them up and their families.
Mm-hmm.
The entire time they're serving us because we don't like what they do.
Right.
But a lot of times they don't have control of that. The administration controls a lot of the stuff that's going on.
Right.
That's why people freak out. Is it going to be Democrats? Is it going to be Republicans? It shouldn't matter who it is because they work for us and they should be doing the right thing.
Should be is the key
Yeah.
word.
Leadership is the key.
Yeah, I know. I always I try to stay away from politics. It's so frustrating.
But people, they tell you stay away from politics. Politics are your life.
Right.
If you just stay out of them, somebody else is going to tell you how you should live your life.
Right.
And so, I mean, as much as they say stay out of politics, you got to be aware of what's going on around you, or else somebody else is going to tell you something. It's going to come out. And you're going to be like, I didn't want that law.
Yeah.
Should have paid attention. There's just so much you can't.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I pay attention to everything. I wish I didn't pay as much attention and watch it and listen to as much as I do, but I know what's going on, but it's just frustrating. It's frustrating. This whole, this party over people thing is,
a lot of people think they know what's going on. But when you actually get inside and behind closed doors, it blows your mind.
Oh, I know.
And I'll tell you, this is also the other side of that too, is sometimes knowing more is worse.
Mm-hmm.
Then that makes you even more depressed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I
can't do anything about.
Yeah, I just try to do, I live my life, be a dad, try to do good for my neighbors and my fellow veterans. And, I hope to God that this crazy world figures itself out.
Well, I liked Trump's slogan, "Make America Great Again." But I told everybody that doesn't start at executive level. That starts with us being better neighbors, being better citizens in our communities in which we live. And that's where we try to make our communities better, so that when we travel, we go somewhere and we say, okay, Joe's taking care of his community. This is a nice area because people have taken care of it. But a lot of people don't know their own neighbors now in America.
Oh, I know.
And it's sad because I tell them, why don't you know your neighbors? Who's watching your house when you're gone? Oh, ring.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, more people should stop, I don't know, doing things online and go out and talk to a stranger,
Well, it's a thing that everybody complained about during COVID that they missed. They're not doing it.
Yeah. No, I don't think people know how to start up a conversation with a perfect stranger. Me, I could talk to anybody, but
I like the strange. The strange is interesting. The strange is the only questions you don't have answers to.
Yep. But yeah, that whole "Make America Great Again." Yeah, that's. It's just a crazy world right now. Like I said, I don't even recognize it anymore. It's a lot of what's going on, especially now with the. The border.
At the end of the day, though, it still is. It's always been great.
Oh yeah, no. This is
even if it's worst day, it's better than anywhere else in the world.
Like Creed on The Office said, we hit the lottery being born in America. I mean,
there's a lot of people that take that for granted.
I know they do.
There's a lot of people that feel entitled simply because they're born here.
Hey, listen, you and I have seen oppression around the world, and what we've seen over there, we don't have it over here. No. So yeah, the people that take these things for granted, they really need to travel the world and not places like France. I'm talking places like Pakistan.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Go to India.
Yeah. Or India. Right.
I mean, if you don't want to go to somewhere that's not, go to Pakistan or India and you'll see true poverty. You'll see, it's tough. People don't realize it. They think it's bad here until they go somewhere else. They go, wow.
Yep.
Let me click my ruby slippers. There's no place like home.
There was a place in the Philippines. We went there probably 7 times. I probably went there 7 different times, but there was a place outside of Subic Bay, and there's a river right outside the base. And the nickname of the river was Shit River, because raw sewage dumped into this river. Well, little kids would sit in these makeshift dinghies in the water. Now I'm thinking, why didn't they just beg for money on the bridge? But they would sit in the water that raw sewage was going through. And
Fishing out turds.
no, they were waiting for Americans to throw money down at them. Jackasses would throw it in the water and watch these kids jump in there because they weren't. But these kids would dive in the water for a dime just so they could eat that night. I wonder if there's an American alive that would be willing to jump into a water full of shit for a dime.
Probably not.
I don't think so. That's oppression.
I don't know. I've jumped in some pretty crappy water for a golf ball. I'm joking, but
I know
it's kind of like those memes. We laugh at them, but they actually, a lot of those make sense. There's like this one where it was what was it, Black Friday. Here you're going to have millions of Americans running out and screaming for sales to buy stuff after they just had a day of being grateful and thankful for all that they already have.
Right. Yeah.
I need more. I need more. But that's interesting. That's the way a lot of Canada looks at us, is that we're the 18 to 25-year-old that won the lottery and we're gluttonous. And a lot of Canadians don't like Americans very much because they still have home values in their small town. And they think we're the Hollywood gluttonous, waste everything. I mean, you look at it, how much food gets wasted in our country. You talk about the dime,
right?
Chow hall that throws away things, restaurants. But that those are our own faults because we can't give those things to the shelters now because of lawsuits. And so the food would rather go to the trash because you can't give it to the hungry because you might get sued.
Right.
And so we block ourselves from doing good. Like I said, we've diluted so many rules in this country that it's too hard to do good or bad. And most of the people now are learning the rules to say, you can't make me do this, you can't make me do that, instead of looking at those rules and saying those were put there to help you. Right. Not for you to abuse them and say, gimme, look at this.
Right.
And that's what it is. A lot of people are looking for loopholes. And people, instead of fixing their problems, they're just trying to outlive them.
Boy, that you make a lot of sense. Yeah.
I make a lot of sense because that's what I'm trying to do too. I got problems too, and I'm trying to solve my problems just like everybody else. There's a lot of misconstrued, what's the word? Misconstruities. Anyways, misconception.
Misconception. There you go.
That of the Medal of Honor. People think that we fly for free and you get everything given to you, and it's like, no, man. Most of us go work like everybody else. It's just like retiring from the Army or getting out of the Army or the military in general. It means go get another job.
I wouldn't have known that. Well, I did meet Clint Romeshay, and I thought he was working somewhere in Minnesota doing something outside. So I guess, maybe I didn't think about
president jobs. And that's the hard part too, is that I would love to be everywhere. In fact, from 2011 till COVID hit, I was averaging about 200 days a year on the road. Anybody and everybody, hey, you want me to be there? Cool. I'll go support your veterans organization with this. I'll do that. And it took a toll. It took a toll not being gone, but there's a lot of things that I was taking away from home. The time. Every time, like, hey, we'll cover your airfare. And then I get baggage, I got fuel, all the other stuff that you can't claim because you're not TDY, you're not that. And they're, write it off. I say, I'm still trying to get it to the point where I can write things off. And so
you're blowing my mind with that, because I guess I was ignorant like everybody else that would think
we're like celebrities and everything's taken care of for us. Your support is actually very small. And
That's
so most guys end up
disappointing.
going out on their own, doing speaking engagements, writing books, doing what they can to survive so they can say, hey, I want to keep doing this, but I got to make a living first.
Right. So did you write a book?
No, I'm still building content. I tell people I didn't want to write a book. A lot of the guys wrote books as soon as they got it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I haven't even experienced it yet.
Right.
I'd rather live with it for a while and then write about it. when I have a better understanding of it.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I didn't really want to write a book until somebody finally told me, they said, it's not for you, it's for everyone else and the
Right.
ones left behind. And it really made me think about it. And writing a book that's impactful to everybody, not just for military and veterans, but that
Mm-hmm.
anybody could pick up this book, a kid or anyone, and they could read it and understand it and make
Right.
sense to them about my experiences throughout my life and the people that have come into it and the good stuff that I've seen and done throughout my years. And I'm thinking about my years. I just turned 45 a couple weeks ago. Oh, holy cow, what do I do now?
I was with you on your birthday.
That's the hardest question, is what do I do now? It's I look at my life and everyone keeps telling you, man, you're so young still. You're 45. And I'm like, you're right. I am. Because most of my friends are in their 80s, 70s. I hang around with most of the old people because I find them the most interesting. They've had a longer experience of life.
Mm-hmm.
They know how to survive. They've lived it. It
Mm-hmm.
may change the time, but it doesn't change the pattern of humans.
Right. How did you like how Pete Hegseth wrote about you?
Oh, I don't know. Him and I have done a few things together. So which one?
Modern Warriors.
Oh, I haven't had a chance to read his book yet.
That it came out a couple of years ago. He did a section in there about you.
Well, see, I didn't even know he did that.
What?
This is the first I've heard of it.
Uh-oh.
I know him and I have done multiple interviews and stuff together, but and I've seen my name pop up in different books here and there. Usually, it's like the award. Somebody else tells me about it. What, really? But there's so much out there today that I can't keep track of it all. Like I said, but I like Pete. I don't know what he said in there, but I'm sure it's something good.
Oh, it was definitely good.
We
Are you coming to Canton for the Patriot Ball this year?
I will be there. I will be there.
I'll be there.
I told Tim, Dr. Novelli, that I took off the past couple of years. I was the president of the Medal of Honor Society, and I didn't even have my own time at that point. I was doing so much that it wore me out. And so now I'm slowing down. I'm trying to take care of myself and thinking about going back to college.
Yeah.
Getting into that political science and taking more interest into politics and bringing leadership back.
That sounds like a great plan. You're, like you said, you're 45.
Yeah. I mean, I've spent a number of the past years, 10 years, that when that door opened to me, most of the time I'm spending with generals and sergeant majors and congressmen and senators, and a lot of the leadership around this country, a lot of the billionaires, CEOs, all these folks down to the very bottom of kindergarten in the classrooms with kids. And so I've got to experience this country for the past 13 years from top to bottom. Met a number of the past presidents, vice presidents, their families, and able to have great conversations. And so part of me, that's what attracted it to me, is that I've already known a lot of the players up in DC.
Mm-hmm.
I know what they're doing, and I know exactly what I'd like to do.
Right.
Help.
Right.
Help do more, make it better.
Well, I think you were born to serve.
Yeah, that's the thing that I kick myself in the shins for, because most leaders forget about themselves when they serve.
Yeah.
And so every now and then I kick myself to take time for my family and I. Try to see, man. Looking at my wall, I just erased a bunch of stuff. Every day I mean, because you meet so many people, I write down interesting stuff or important stuff. And like you said, this is one. It may seem small, but it's connected to thousands and millions possibilities through the internet, and telling their stories and sharing some of the experiences in life are one of the key things for values. I mean, you look at the Native Americans, most cultures, cavemen, everyone started out with telling stories. They didn't have paper, they didn't have books, they didn't have movies.
Right.
So the way that history was preserved was through storytelling. And that's the one thing that we don't have enough of is storytelling. Every person that leaves this world, whether they're in the military or not, who did they leave their story to?
Right.
And that's what we live on is we only get the stories that are captured. And so you doing this podcast is capturing those veteran stories and keeping them alive. Because the great thing about the internet, it can be used for good or bad. They gave us a cloud to store everything in. It's not going away.
Yep.
That I thought about doing something like that. I'm not tech savvy, but if someone were to create a server, sell you some time on a server, hey, 30-minute slot, tell your story, leave your history for your family, your generation, whoever. And it gets to be put into your words because a lot of times stories are manipulated or they're not told the right way.
Right.
Shoot, people are always like, oh, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, master sergeant. And a lot of people crowd on that, but that's not the important part of the story.
Right.
It's like I tell people, if you stay in long enough, the military is that stressful, you'll end up with these receding hairlines. I got to get a haircut. That's why I was wearing a ball cap.
That's all right.
But,
it's one of the things I want to do with this podcast too is I want to talk to as many veterans as I possibly can. I have my fingers crossed that my uncle, a Vietnam vet who never talks about Vietnam. I'm even hoping one day to get him to, I don't need to know blood and guts, I don't need to, I don't need him to tell that story.
No, you just open it up and tell him to share what he wants, and you'll be interested that it's like an ogre.
Right.
We're like ogres. We have layers. You just start peeling them back.
But I'd love for him to open up and like talk about living conditions, talk about what it was like coming home, and maybe gradually ease into whatever he wants to talk about. This platform, there's a billion platforms for veterans, and I'm just this and all of those. But it's so cool.
What's his name?
My uncle?
Yeah.
It's Jim Nolte. He was in the Army, Vietnam.
Hey, Jim Nolte, you better be doing a podcast with Joe.
Uncle Jim, there
Thanks
you go.
for your service. Welcome home.
I'm gonna make sure he sees that. But I really want to, love when I can get somebody to tell the story. Having a Medal of Honor recipient. I don't get fanboy very often, but when it comes to,
I got in case some of the people are viewing.
Yeah, look at that. Is that the one? Is that the original, or they give you one to walk around with?
They give you two, but most people save the original and they wear the duplicate.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
Museum or something.
Yeah,
it didn't matter to me. I'm going to take care of it, so I just.
2 years ago, when I went to the Patriot Ball, I took my daughter, and my daughter was 19 at the time. And I met, Clint Romeshay and a couple of the other recipients. And I was standing there, and my daughter, she almost couldn't care less because I said, honey, let me try to explain this. You like movies, and the big award is the Oscars, right? The best actor. These guys, you can't get a higher award than what these guys did. And it was for valor. It's for things that you can't even fathom. She was 19 at the time. And we ended up watching a couple of the Medal of Honor things on Netflix so she could get an idea, especially, because we met Clint Romeshay. But I told her, I said, it took me 53 years to meet a Medal of Honor recipient. She's like, took me 19, Dad. But
that's the thing is most of the time I'll take it off and I'll share it. If it's a smaller crowd
Right.
because I want people to hold it and see it. Most people will never be able to even see one, like you said, or touch one.
Mm.
And what made it special for me was I'd have when I first got it, I would have medal World War II guys walk up to me in tears, crying. Some of them saying, "I
Mm.
never thought I'd meet a Medal of Honor recipient." The first thing I do is I hand it to them and I say, "Here, hold it. It belongs to all of us."
Right.
But that's the thing with the services. People don't realize it represents us all. That it's a small ribbon and a medal, but what it represents is that any of us is capable of great things.
Right.
That you could be a hero to somebody simply by helping them out with a difficult task, listening to their problems when they're having a hard day.
Hmm.
Sometimes you won't even be given recognition to be a hero to somebody.
Right.
And that's the best kind of hero is when you just know you did something good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I know I've known your story, and I know you did something good. And there's two guys that can attest to that. And I really love that you took the time to tell it to me. I know I'm just, Joe from Cleveland, man, but I really appreciate this. And, I hope this gets out to millions of people.
I
This
hope
is,
so too. Well, and like I said, I'm really debating on whether or not to start a podcast.
you should, you really should.
It's another opportunity instead of a book to just tell it all. And I could have friends that were on missions with me come in, talk our different perspectives.
Right.
I mean, because I was somehow I ended on some of our greatest missions, the Jessica Lynch rescue
Oh,
and
I remember her. You were on that?
Marcus Luttrell rescue in Afghanistan. I was on both of those.
You were there. You rescued Marcus?
I didn't, but I was part of the team.
Oh, now that is a good story too.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of him
Oh no, because he's in
though.
the
Well,
Navy.
because he didn't come out with the story, the truth at the very beginning.
Yeah.
He let the book be written the way it was. A lot of the truth's coming out now, but there was a lot of stuff that people were angry at him for, and I gave him the benefit of the doubt until I met him, and then he was
Mhm.
kind of an asshole. So I was like, all right, cool, deuces.
Hmm.
That's why I tell people I only judge my friends on two things: character and merit. Because if you don't display those two things, chances are we're not going to be around each other very long.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's like I said though, everybody's got different things going on, and people you may have taken it differently.
Right.
You never judge the other person because you don't know the other person. I think that's a lot what happened with Chris Kyle too. I mean, he was taking that young Marine PTSD. And nobody knows for sure what happened, but I could probably speculate what we do in the soft community. We're good at talking shit to each other.
Right.
And this young kid probably just couldn't take it, or he took it personally,
Right.
when I'm sure those weren't the intentions. But I can't speculate. All I could say is maybe we learn from this and treat each person with respect until we get to know that person a little bit better.
Right.
I was actually thinking about starting a nonprofit too. Like I said, I got all these great ideas. I just got to pick one.
Mhm.
The one thing that I was looking at is starting one called Beneath the Surface, because that's where a lot of people don't look.
Right.
They don't go into the home. They don't dig deep. Besides, hey, you feel like hurting yourself? Is everything okay today? And to find out what the problems are with a lot of these veterans and actually help them fix them.
I'll tell you what, you know, something like this would be a great platform, even if they wanted to keep their anonymity. There's so many ways, they would love to hear, from you.
Shoot, me and my buddy, he's a Marine. Now, don't hold that against me. But we talk at least once a week. Best friend. I haven't seen him in about 7 years.
Mhm.
He lives on the East Coast, so but we talk, and he's my go-to guy when I'm having a crappy day. Tell him send me one of those Marine memes. Of course, something crazy comes up, and I start laughing. But
Not kid friendly.
we talked about getting just a team van and just rolling through towns and pulling up to a house that you see the veteran lives there. Say, hey, what can we do to help you? Let us
Hmm.
clean up your yard. Let us go get you some groceries. Find out what they need. because that's what it used to be when I was an NCO. You had guys that lived off base. You went to their house, and that gave you an image.
Right.
Is their yard a mess? Is everything astray, or is it kept nice? What's going on beneath this? Oh, can I come inside? Oh, it looks great from the outside, but inside it's trash.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes putting them in that uncomfortable situation without saying anything, let your eyes do the talking for you. And a lot of
Right.
people don't do that research. They see something online or something on the news. Oh, I'm going to give to that organization because they're helping. I tell people always do your homework. Find out exactly where it goes, what percentage, who's what's doing. Whenever you're going to invest time or money, both equally valuable in our lives. Make sure that it's going somewhere where you can see the return,
Right.
whether it's local or whether it's somebody you know.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's unfortunate, but fortunate and unfortunate. We've become like World War II. There's over 30,000 veteran organizations out there today. And after World War II, they had all these organizations, and they said, "Oh, we're just going to put them under one uniform service organization." And
Right.
it's USO formed. Well, now we've gone to that again. Unfortunately, there were some, and maybe still some today in existence, that not only veterans, but all these nonprofits. As a nonprofit, I think they only have to give, I think, what is it, 65% back or something, or 33% back. Like
Hmm.
65% can be written on overhead and all that.
Really?
And so a lot of people started finding out that they can make money, and this is a selling item, and we can help a little bit, but then we can take too
Right.
at the same time. And so there was a lot of these organizations I started getting on Charity Navigator and really doing my homework before I started getting involved with them and saying,
Mm-hmm.
well, this is not only on me, I'm putting my name on it to help these people. I'm going to protect my name because a name was all you had
Right.
at that time. But now it's gone into a different era for our youth and this next generation of name, image, likeness. Don't
Right.
use my name or else I'll sue you.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's really put a spin on how we operate as human beings, because you got one generation that's welcoming and open, and the other generation that's afraid because they're like, oh, it's even in business. Old money is like, I don't know if I want to hire these young kids because they're going to get me sued or they're going to sue me.
Mm-hmm.
The young kids are like, give me a chance, pay me lots of money. They're like, no, you don't
Yeah.
have any experience.
Right.
And so it's a weird ball that we're in right now. It's confusing because it's all new,
Yep.
and we're all trying to figure it out.
Yep. I know it's a crazy ride right now. Well, listen, before I let you go, one last question. So if any young person was thinking about joining the military right now, what would you tell them?
Go Army. I would tell them why. I'd ask them why. That's probably the most important thing, is to understand why they want to join.
Mm-hmm.
People join for a million different reasons, but showing them that you have interest in why they want to join lets them tell you,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you a chance to give them feedback of why you joined and why it was important to you to keep serving. And so it's the only way we're going to recruit. Our best recruiters are our veterans and our military. The way that young men and women will see them portrayed in the public
Mm-hmm.
will directly reflect if they will want to join or not. America will always ask for its sons and daughters to protect our freedoms, our rights, and our way of life in this country. And so why not share with them the good parts of serving as veterans to that younger generation? The hardest part is getting them connected.
Right.
I told this to many recruiters across the military. Hey, can you come help us recruit? We come talk to our recruits. I was like, I can't be everywhere. And I said, I'd love to, but I said, the best thing you can do is you have people to speak for your Veterans Day, for all your stuff, right in your own backyard. Go look at your
Mhm.
VFWs, go look at your Legions. Just walk around town and you can find them with the hats on.
Right.
I said, those are the people, get to know them. And I said, get to know the ones that will help you out recruiting, and they'll be your best asset for recruiting because They're not a recruiter, so they're not going to think they're going to lie to them.
Mm-hmm.
They've served. They're not have no reason to lie to them. Let them tell them the truth.
Right.
It's going to have ups and downs, but the
Yep.
ups well outweigh the downs.
I'm glad I served.
Well, it's the transition that they talk about being hard. Like I
Right.
was telling you earlier, that you get out and you realize for a short period, whether it was 4 years or 40 years, you were surrounded by so many good people.
Mm-hmm.
You knew people that knew what teamwork was, knew what values were, knew how to be on time, took initiative, all these things of leadership you were surrounded by and condensed. Then you get out and you transition back into the civilian world. And you're like, man, everybody's throwing each other underneath the bus to get ahead.
Hmm.
Half these people don't know what a team is.
Right.
And it really opens your eyes to how fortunate you were to serve with some of the country's best.
Yep. I agree. 100%.
But you know, at the end of the day, we all just do whatever we can while we wear that uniform and that flag on our shoulder.
Right. Yep. Well, listen, I'm so thankful and grateful that you took this time to talk to me and share your story, Leroy. This is even better than I thought it would be. So thank you.
Do you take callers? Do you do this live at all ever?
I haven't. Talk about not being too technical. I'd love to do that. Eventually, yeah, I'd love to do that.
I tell you, I haven't even got up to where you're at, so I'm behind the curve. But I got lots of questions.
But yeah, this StreamYard thing is actually so simple. I'm an idiot when it comes to this stuff. I figured it out pretty easy.
I gotta get a new camera. I think my laptop is 2013. It's all grainy.
But I'd love to have people text in or send messages, ask questions. I'd love to do that. There is an option to do live things like that.
It's hard to monitor and
go
at the same time. I mean, you'll be stepping up into a crew before long.
Well, if I get a lot of followers, I mean, right now, let's put it this way, on my Spotify, just the audio version of this conversation, I think I have 43 followers right now, 43. But if I put this on Facebook, which I will, I'm not Facebook, I'm sorry, on YouTube, I'll probably,
I'm sorry. Somebody had told me there's an app you could download and it'll post to all your social media.
Yeah, well, this will do that. Yeah. But when I put this on YouTube, I'll probably get a couple thousand people that see this. So
yeah, you should put it across all the.
I mean, this is.
Like I told you, the hardest part is people don't know.
Right.
And that's what you do is you bring the awareness, and they're like, "Oh, what's that? I'll click on that."
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest thing is people to find it because there's, like I said, there's so much out there. So the more you have it, it's kind of like doing the offer up.
Right.
I don't know if you do that, but it says, "Hey, pay an extra $1 to promote Plus," and it gets the extra advertising.
Yeah. Well, some people might look at it and go, "Wow, 2 hours of talking, that's a little too long for me." And then some people like me will look and be like, "Damn, that 2 hours went fast." But this was interesting.
The best part about the 2 hours, now you can pause it.
Yeah, they can pause it whenever they want. Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, man, where I'm at, it's midnight here, and this was a fun 2 hours. I appreciate all this.
It seemed like it went by quick.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to do a follow up.
Love it
in the future. You got my number now, so anything I can do. Let me know.
I'd love it, man. I mean, this is a lot of fun for me, and that's why I call it Just Talking, because all the questions I had, I closed this up a while ago. You know, this was just us talking. I knew I had a lot of questions, but I let you dictate all.
My head out of my tail, I can get the podcast going. I have you on mine.
Oh heck yeah! My story is a whole lot more uneventful.
Yeah, but you have life experience too, though.
I do,
and that's everything. It's not only the military; it's your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Is comprised around leadership.
Well, one of the cool things about me is my business, and there's a million people doing what I do now. But when I started 9 years ago, there were only a few, and my business is these behind me. I make wooden American flags. Now I made one for the seal that you were here with.
Yeah, I saw it.
Uh,
It was at Tim's house. I saw him
yeah,
when he signed it.
yeah. So I make wavy ones too. I do a lot of stuff, and I raise a lot of money for veterans organizations and first responders. So I always say that through my flags, it's kind of like I'm still serving, because I like to bring awareness to veterans and veterans organizations and imperfections, and how veterans, they come back not the same as when they left. And I make my flags to be symbolic of the imperfections. And, I look for knots and, dings, and I purposely make my flags to look like they've been through hell, because our
Well,
veterans have been through hell.
it's like the Masons, the cornerstone.
Yeah.
They picked the toughest, roughest looking stone to hold the corner up,
Mm-hmm.
because it was the hardest stone, which is kind of weird. My last name Petry means stone.
Oh, is that right?
My first name Leroy means king, and my middle name Arthur means courage.
Well, your parents put some thought into that, huh?
No, they didn't. I asked my mom earlier this year why she named me that, because I found out, I was just messing around and I looked it up, and I was like, "Why'd you name me that?" And she goes, all my uncles are named with L. I got a bunch of uncles: Lonnie, Lee, Lynn, Larry, Louie, and it just went on. My grandpa named them all L's. He was a Korean War guy, but time frame. But then he didn't want to name them middle names, so he just named them all Albert in the middle names. So they're all LAPs, LAPs. And my dad decided to keep it going. So you got Larry Jr., Larry Armando Jr., Lloyd Alfonso, and then Leroy Arthur, and then Lyndon Anthony Andrew, and then Lincoln Anthony. And so we all LAPs. And it just fell in line. My mom named me Leroy.
That's funny.
But then I did it to my kid. I kept the LAP too. I was like, why did I do that?
Got to keep that tradition going. You got to have tradition.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I was saying earlier. If you stay in long enough, you end up with those receding hairlines because of the stress.
Mm-hmm.
You see how everybody, as they get older, start worrying about receding hairlines. And, I'm going bald. I'm thinning out. But guess what? It doesn't matter what's on top of the head. It's what's inside of it that's important.
Right.
People forget about what's priority.
Yep. Well, listen, thanks for doing this. I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Thanks for letting you stay up late.
Oh, they're all
I had
in
a
bed.
blast.
They're all in bed. Yeah. I'm looking forward to putting this out there for the world to listen to. And when I put it out on YouTube, I'm going to add some photos of you getting the medal and with Obama, and, some of the other pictures I found online. I like to throw some visuals in there too.
Sounds good. Yeah, please shoot me a link so I can check it out too.
Yeah. And feel free, if you want to blast it out to your friends or whatever, if anyone wants to listen, I'll send you the links to my my Spotify, which is just the audio. I have a face for radio, so most people just like listening to me, but I'll send you both links once I get them out there.
I'll tell you, I can't thank you enough again for doing this, not only with me, but with all the veterans that you're doing it with. And the flags that you do are amazingly beautiful.
Thank you.
You're making a difference. I used to think about that when I'd go visit people, and you see 100 kids in a junior high, and you go, I wonder if it was worth it to come take my time to come talk to them if they were all listening. Then I realized if it's one, it's worth it.
Yep.
It's usually more than one, but hey, thanks again for all you're doing.
And thank you for like I said, for this time and for your service and your sacrifice too. Thank you for that.
Pretty much the only time we'll argue is November. Go Army.
Yeah. Go Navy. Beat Army.
We'll see
all
you.
Right.
Not before then, we'll see you at the Patriot Ball.
All right. Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, Leroy.
Good night.
All right. Bye.